Alright, today's video I'm going to show you how to make a slab teapot. Things you're going to need are a fork, a spoon, scissors, you're going to need your knife, you're going to need some paper, your sponge, your rib, some water, and obviously some clay, and you're going to need a pencil. Alright, so the first thing you're going to do once you've designed your teapot, you're going to create a stencil, a life-size stencil for the outside of your teapot. So let's just say I'm going to do a symmetrical shape. So I'm going to fold my paper in half and then draw this shape here. So now when I cut this out with the paper folded, you'll see that I have a perfectly symmetrical stencil, and there it is. If you don't have a symmetrical design, then draw your design on a piece of paper. And then go ahead and cut that out. Make sure that your drawing is meeting the height requirements for this assignment, which is 8 to 10 inches tall. Okay, so there's my stencil. So I'll use this one for this demonstration. Oh, one other thing you're going to need is it'll be helpful if you have a ruler, something straight to create your straight edges on. Okay, so now that we have our stencil, next you're going to need to create your slabs. So to do that, you're going to need a flat surface, something pretty sturdy. This table, I'm using a fold-up table. It's not very sturdy. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this down really hard to flatten it out. So I'm going to move to my workbench that's a little more sturdy. Okay, the trick to creating a slab by throwing the clay, I have this huge chunk here. And the goal is I'm going to keep throwing this down until it gets to about an inch thick. So the trick to this is holding it with both hands and throwing it down at an angle so that it hits the table surface on this part first and then falls flat. And you want to make sure that you don't throw it straight down, because otherwise it's going to stick. Now you can see how it's already gotten a little thinner. And I'm rotating it so that it gets bigger and bigger. So now you can see how thin this has gotten already. Maybe one more throw. Alright, that's good enough. I don't want this to get too thin. So there's my slab. Okay, now that I have my slab, now I'm going to take my stencil and I'm going to cut out the shape of my teapot. Now make sure to utilize as much of this slab as you can. So the less number of slabs you'll have to create. So what I need to do for the purpose of this teapot is cut out 2 of these, one for each side. Use my knife. Just cutting right along the edge of my stencil here. Now the reason why you want to use a stencil is because you want the front and the back of your teapot to be the same exact size, because otherwise if they aren't, then when you put your all your slabs together to create your teapot, it's going to be really lopsided. Okay, there's one. I'll flip it over. I'll just use the same cut for the back of this one. Make sure your stencil's flat. It'll stick to the clay because the clay's wet. Alright, I've cut both of my slabs out. I'm not going to crumble this up because I'm going to probably use this for the sides. And there are my two identical slabs. They're a little thick, but only because I threw them as opposed to using like a rolling pin to make slabs. If you have a rolling pin, you want to use a rolling pin, you can. The only problem with that is you can't do it directly on the table surface. You'd have to put it on some sort of a cloth, because otherwise if you're pushing down on this with a rolling pin, it's going to stick to the table and you won't be able to pick it up. Okay, so there's the front and the back of my teapot. So it'll be kind of like this. But now what I need are the sides. So to do that, that's where I'm going to use the ruler. And I want the sides of my teapot to be about 2.5 inches thick. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler and create a straight edge. And I just use the ruler to cut it. And then I'm going to measure 2.5 inches here. I'm going to measure this twice and mark it twice so that I get a perfectly parallel cut to this edge. So there's 2.5 inches, and I'm going to mark 2.5 inches here. And then use my ruler, line that up. And with what I've got here, since this is all curved, I can really only use this middle section, so I'm just going to cut off this and cut the bottom off. So this was the only salvageable piece that I have. I need enough slabs to wrap around like from here to here, across the bottom, and then here. And I'm going to leave the top open. So this piece, that's enough for the side right there, and then I need one more for here and then one for here. So I'm going to need a longer one than this. So I'm going to, now what I need to do is go make some more slabs.
A few moments later.
Alright, I've got another slab here. I'm going to start with cut a straight edge off. I'm going to do my 2.5 inch measurement. 2.5 inches here, 2.5 inches here, cut it along those two marks, chop off the bottom and the top so I have a nice square piece. And now what I can do is see if this is going to be long enough, which it looks like it will be. If I wrap this from here around to here and back up there, perfect. And I can just cut off the extra. So now I have the front and the back, and this will ultimately go on top. But now I just need one little piece for the bottom here. And I might have it, no, I'm going to have to go make one more slab. So cutting my bottom piece. So now this is going to, I'm going to have it fit in between here rather than going directly on the bottom. Now all of these side pieces, when you put them on, they're going to have to go on top of this one. And then this is going to go on top of these as opposed to going on the outside of your slab base. So to determine how much of this I need, I'm going to first clean these cuts here so I have a nice straight edge, and then position this here. If that were to sit on the inside here, then this is going to need to be cut right here. Okay, so now this will fit in between, like that. And then this will go on top. Now before I can put this together, these are really flimsy. And if I tried to put all this together right now, it would probably kind of start to fall apart. So what I need to do, see, these are very flimsy. So what I need to do is make these into self-supporting slabs. So if I hold them up right now, they kind of fall over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place these on a piece of cardboard and then put them outside in the sun. Alright, so I just grabbed an Amazon box and cut the side off. And I'm going to take all these, and I'm putting them on here so I can transport them a little easier. There's all my pieces, and now I'm going to take this and go put it in the sun to let it dry so that these can become leather hard and self-supporting. So I'll probably put these in the sun for like 10 minutes, and then I'll rotate them and give them another 10 minutes or so. You can, obviously you could speed this process up if you just take your hairdryer, dry them off.
A few moments later.
Alright, so I brought them in. They're a little more self-supporting. It's not falling over as easily. And now I'm going to put it together. So first I'm going to start with one of my outer pieces. Determine which side looks better than the other. I mean, you're going to be smoothing this all out with a sponge and a rib and everything, so don't worry too much about how neat they look. But based on these two, this is pretty messy right here. So I'll make that the inside of my teapot. So I'm going to take my first side slab here. I'm going to use the rib to kind of flatten this out a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to score and slip this on. I'm going to add a little bit of water. And then I'm going to put these together and use my baby spoon here to blend these. I'm going to blend this on the inside and the outside. So I'm just blending it really, not too much. I don't want to blend too much of this clay into the bottom because I don't want this to get too bumpy on the outside. The inside you can blend a little bit more because you're not really going to see the inside that much. Okay, so now that's on there pretty good. Now I'm going to do this part. And I kind of left it curved a little bit because I knew since I did let it get leather hard, as it firms up it's not going to curve as easily. So I got that into the position that it needs to be in the shape. Score and slip. Make sure that's lined up right along the edge here really neatly. I'm going to use my spoon now to blend this together. And then blend the inside. Again, I'm going to blend this a little bit more than I did the outside because this is the inside, so it's not going to be that visible. And now I just need the bottom and my little piece here. It's going to squeeze in here, so I just wanted to make sure it still fit. Score and slip. And now this bottom piece, I'm going to blend it into this bottom slab and then also into these two side slabs. Okay, now that I have these three sides on, now I just need to score and slip this on. Actually, you know, since this is a teapot, I'm going to be making a spout. I guess I can close this up. So you know what, I had this extra piece, this extra slab here. I'm just going to use that. I'm going to cut this so it fits in there. So that'll fit right there. So that way this will be completely enclosed. Not that I'm going to actually use this as a teapot, but it makes a little bit more sense for the top to be closed since I'm going to have a spout. Alright, so I score and slip this on. And this is easier to add now before I add this final top piece on. So it's looking a little messy, but the rib is really going to make this smooth and make it really come together. Okay, so now I'm going to add this here, so I'm going to score and slip all the way around the edge. Now before I blend this in, I have to make sure that all the curves match up. So like this needs to come out a little bit to match it. There we go. Okay, it's looking pretty even all the way around. So now I'm going to blend it all the way around. The next thing I'm going to do before I lift this up, I have a feeling it's going to be kind of stuck to the table right now because a lot of moisture got on the table and it's pretty stuck. So while it's stuck, I'm going to start using the rib because now that I blended it all out, I'm going to use the rib to start creating these nice clean edges because you want the edge of your pot or of your teapot to be nice and crisp, to look a really fine.
I'm just going all the way around the edge. Clean this up. To smooth out all those areas where I was blending the clay together. And once I pick it up, once I get these edges real smooth, then I'll work on taking a sponge to this part and smoothing that all out.
See if I can get this off the table without breaking it. There. So there it is. It's pretty thick. Now that I'm standing it up, now I can rib the rest of it. Just going all the way around, getting this really square, getting the edges really, get like a nice 90-degree angle on all these edges.
There's a little inconsistency on this edge here, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my knife and remove the extra clay. So I have like a nice clean edge here. You can see how the sponge really kind of finishes it off. This side needs a little bit of work.
Applying a decent amount of pressure there too. I'm removing a little bit of clay, but more redistributing the clay from the high points to the low points because there's some areas are caved in a little bit. And sometimes to get these really sharp edges, it takes just going back and forth from this side and now back over the top. My ribs getting really a lot of wet clay on it. It's making it harder to use. Let's scrape all that extra clay off of there. So at this point, I'm just going to keep working on this until I've gotten this really smooth. All my edges are really crisp. And then I'm going to move on to making the spout, which will be the same process, making the spout and the handle, if you want to add a handle, by making it hollow by using little stencils to get the shape that you want. And then, so you basically, for the spout and the handle, if you're making a handle, you're making basically a mini version. Score and slip it to the side of your teapot. Alright, for the spout, I'm going to create another stencil. And to make this stencil, I'm just going to lay my teapot down. And I'm going to draw the shape of my spout. Have it curve a little bit. I better draw the part that connects it. Okay, so there's my stencil. I'm going to cut this out. And now I've already made my slab. This one I made quite a bit thinner because this is such a smaller piece that if my slabs are really thick, they're just gonna like come together in the middle. All right, so I'm gonna need 2 of these. There's one. So there's the front and the back of my spout. And then I'm going to need the sides just like I did with the main part of the teapot. So I'm going to start with a straight edge. I'm going to make this a little skinnier. It does the spout doesn't need to be as wide as the actual teapot. So I'm going to I'll make this one actually the thickness of this ruler. Cutting the ends so they're straight. And then for this, I only need a slab to go here and here because you want the inside and the outside of your spout to be open. So put that there, dry fit this here, cut the extra. And this piece not quite long enough, so I'm going to need to cut another one. Moved. And these slabs are still a little thick, but you can see how if you make them too thick, then this, you want there to be an opening here. So if that was too thick, it would just completely be closed up. Okay, then you want to get these leather hard, score and slip them on. Blend it together, blend the inside. A little bit more water there. Blend those together. Now I can't really get my spoon in here because it's too big, but I can get the back side of my knife in there. Alright, and then I've got the top of my spout. So before I score and slip this on, I want to make sure that this fits. Now that I'm putting this last one on, I obviously can't really blend the inside together because I can't really get a tool in there. So just make sure you blend the outside good enough. Now that it's all together, now I'm going to take my rib, just like I did with the body of the teapot. Now I'm going to work on creating these nice, clean, straight edges all the way around. And you can see, even though I only made this the width of the ruler, which is about 1 inch, this is still pretty thick, but it's thinner than the width of my teapot. So just work on getting nice clean edges, using your sponge to smoothen it all out. And then I'm going to score and slip it to the body of my teapot. So I think I'll just lay this down. This is going to go about here. So I need to figure out where this is where I want this to go, and then I want there to be an opening all the way through, so I'm just going to kind of trace where this is going to go. This will also let me know where I need to score and slip. I'm just doing a really light line there. And then I can cut out the middle carefully. It's a little soft still, but and clean that up a little bit. Okay, now score and slip. Make sure that's in the middle, and then blend it together. And now I'm going to use the rib to really get this to look all like one solid piece and smooth, nice clean edges. And so this is just going to continue to need work. Smoothing, ribbing. And then if you want to add a handle, you can do it the same way as you did the spout. Make it hollow so it's not too thick, because obviously if this was solid clay, it would be really thick, a really thick piece of clay, and it would, it's not going to dry very well, and you want your stuff to dry completely before it gets fired in the kiln. Now I have areas, say for example right here, where here was the side slab, and then the top slab is right in here, so you can kind of see there's a slight dent right here. And all I need to do is take a little piece of clay, and I'm not even going to score and slip it, but I'm just going to take a little coil like this and blend that in, and then rib it. Just to kind of get rid of that. It's hard when you make a vessel like this that's completely closed because I can't go from the inside and push it back out. So I'm kind of forced to fill it in from the outside. And there you have it. The ugliest little teapot you ever saw.